Hey gamers, welcome to a different kind of video. There's two things I want to talk about. One is Chainsaw Man, the Reze arc, the movie, and To Be Hero X, since I just finished watching that show. So let's start off with the Chainsaw Man movie. I was looking forward to this movie. I thought that this was the best arc to make into a movie. I thought it would work really well as a movie, and I was not disappointed. There's a lot of things that was elevated from it being a movie, just as much as anything else. I will say, one of the big talking points with the Reze arc, and I think Chainsaw Man moving forward, was Mappa stating that I think they changed the animation director. I don't know the full controversy, other than them just saying that this movie and then like moving forward, Chainsaw Man's gonna be more uh uh in the style of the manga and Fujimoto style than anything else, because the first season it was done with the idea of let's make this look like a movie. Since Fujimoto is a huge movie buff, let's just do that. So I know a lot of people are very divisive over that, or divided over that, and now they're divided again over this decision. And I think, you know, when you look back at season one, I do think that more and more people kind of came around and said, actually, this is kind of a cool like decision and style. That now I think some people are a little more like disappointed that they're now just being more like closely adapting the manga instead of like doing some kind of artistic vision with it. And I get it from both angles from this. To me, I've always saw adaptations as long as there's a vision behind the adaptation, I don't mind any changes. Like, as long as it serves a point or a vision, I think you can do that. Do whatever. Like, as long as there's a vision behind it, like, I think there's merit with it. Uh on the other hand, like when you're making meaningless changes, then yeah, that may like devalue the source material. But Chainsaw Man season one, I will argue, elevated the source material a lot, because I probably would not have read the manga if I did not like the first season. So I really appreciate the stylistic change between the two, but I get it just as much as anyone else that like sometimes people just want to see Fujimoto's style animated. So I think it's it's an interesting discussion to have. Uh, that said, I do think the animation style in the movie was really good, and I think it's fine. I think the stylistic change, moving more to that, I think is decent, because I do like the color contrast and just kind of how flat it is in some cases. I think it just sells the style a lot more. Uh, I think with season one, the fluid motion in some scenes really looked amazing. Like, this is gonna sound kind of dumb, but the scene where Makima and the other public safety people like walked into the warehouse, like when they arrived to the warehouse and they walked in, that scene was great. That was a gorgeous scene, and that was when I was like, okay, I'm into this. I'm into Chainsaw Man. I want to see where this goes, and it just kept getting better after that. I can look past the CGI in season one, because it's like it's a show. Like I can kind of like, as long as there's something that's like enticing me, I'll stick with it. Uh, on the other hand, I think this movie does a better job kind of integrating the CGI into the art style. So there's a good like balance. So I don't think there's anything wrong with either. Uh, so I do like the movie's art style. The animation was really good. The action scenes were really good. Uh, the pacing in the story. This is kind of where I feel this movie really kind of elevates the arc. Uh, because it fits the movie format a lot. You have this slow build up. You see the date with Makima and Denji. Then you see Denji meet up with Reze, and then like you go on from there, and it's so beautiful just how these things play out. It's phenomenal. Like I just really love just how it like pays off. Nothing feels rushed. Like the movie is like an hour and 30, 40 minutes or so. And I was thinking like, okay, this may feel like a short movie, but it felt pretty long. Like it felt like it was the right the right amount. Uh the date scenes I liked a lot. I've always loved that in the manga as well, where it's just like you see them watch the movie, you see Denji kind of like not really understand them. Like he's like, why are these people like laughing at this movie? Why are they crying? I mean, this movie kind of sucked. Like you see this like kind of superficial aspect into like into a character watching a movie versus you see Makima and she's kind of like digesting the movies and she's actually like watching them to understand and this kind of sounds kind of like whatever, but I remember that my dad telling me the same thing, like you won't really know a bad movie until you watch more movies. Just keep watching movies and then you'll know what a bad movie is and you'll understand what a good movie is. And I kind of like didn't think much of it at the time, but watching this date kind of like put that into perspective. It's like she watches 10 movies like a day or whatever, or 10 movies like a week, like on a weekend or whatever. And she thinks it's worth watching all these movies because she'll watch one movie that will make her like really think or whatever. And that's kind of how movies are, honestly. Like you have to watch a lot of them, and eventually you'll find one that's like really good. And the price of admission is kind of worth that to that degree. So I really like that aspect of it. And this is also like a small little window of Fujimoto really just showing you how much he loves movies. Almost in all of his work, he kind of like sneaks in a little movie like buff reference or whatever. I'm reading Fire Punch right now, and Fire Punch did it had that moment there too, where I think this is the end of volume 1, where this character talks about her favorite movie and why she like where she's like, if I can't watch movies, I'll just kill myself. I would just do that, and it's like like I kind of like get that. I kind of get that like just character wise, yeah. So I like that this was another aspect, a little window of Fujimoto just kind of like sneaking in more movie references as well. So I like that. Uh, I do really love the love triangle Denji puts himself in between getting conflicted feelings with Reze and Makima, and it's done in a very like obviously the way he's like thinking about it is very childish and silly. Where he's like, I have two sets of boobs. I don't know like. I was with Makima. She found me first, but she's like laughing at my jokes, dude. Like, and it's so frustrating when you go to Twitter and you see these dumb fucks start just character assassinating Denji and saying like, well, you see, he's just a sex pest. He's like Mineta from My Hero Academia, or he's just like Teddy from Persona 4, and that's not Denji at all. Like, I'm current on the manga, and it was killing me rewatching season 1, knowing where Denji ends up by like the current arc of the manga, and it was killing me how different he was as a character. Like he has come such a long way that it's just insane to me for people to write that character off as that. Like this character goes through so much, and to say that he just objectifies and sexualizes all the women in his life. It's like that's like furthest thing from the truth. Like this character actually like and there's a lot of commentary going on with this character talking about like, this character has such a terrible like upbringing, terrible childhood, and then like he's so like desperate at the time at the point where he's like selling his organs to get by, and then he finds a public safety where he's like, oh, I can like kill devils and they'll give me a home to stay in and food. Okay, like he does not care about what it meant to be to do that. Like he didn't give a shit. He was just like food and a place to stay, great, and he has no other like uh context or anything. Like even in this movie, the movie like spells it out, and even in the manga, like it's the same kind of dialogue where Reze literally is like, you never went to school, you don't know how to read, and you're just happy with just being working on public safety, like risking your life just because you get food and like a roof over your head. Like that's like the very basics of like living, and you're happy with that. Like you don't want any more than that. Like you think this is like great, and it's because it just shows just how like miserable of a life he had, that this is like the only life he knows. And she's like telling him straight up, like, you should want more. Like this is like the basics. And she gets him to think like that a little bit. Like I think, in my opinion, like this arc is a very important like road in Denji's like path as a character, where after this he starts to like think a little bit more in some cases, and then like where he is now, like it all like builds up. And I've seen some people kind of make the argument that Reze is also grooming Denji. Like these two women are grooming him, and I think that's not necessarily fair on Reze's end to accuse her of that. I think it's fair in the sense that like that's what she was doing in some cases, but I think it's doing a disservice in the sense of at the very end, was she being honest with him, telling him like, yeah, I was just lying to you when I said we'd run away together. All my feelings are fake. I trained myself to blush and this and that. Like, I think that was intentionally thrown out there for you to think, is she telling the truth there? Is that a lie? Maybe that's a lie, and the feelings were genuine. Like, I do think that there is a level of ambiguity with Reze's character specifically, because why else would she leave the train station to go back to the cafe? Like there is a lot of questions you can think about. I think Reze as a character is a very ambiguous part of the puzzle. Meanwhile, Makima is very directly exploiting Denji's need and Denji's livelihood. Like she knows what Denji wants and she's exploiting that. So I think it's more evil and more like grooming on Makima's end than Reze. Reze, I get the argument. It's just with Reze, it's just a very ambiguous character where you don't even know when she told Denji that, was she being honest. Like she could have easily just told him that just to spare him his feelings, because she knew Denji was so like invested with public safety that there's no way that that this would be a good life for him to become an accomplice and this and that. Like she could easily just said that just to like distance herself from him further. Uh, and you could argue the scene where she's like running back to the cafe, she realizes like maybe he could make it happen, even though she runs into Makima anyway. Like I think a lot of this is just Fujimoto's writing, and it's very ambiguous as to what things are and what they mean. Like I don't think that you can necessarily write off Reze one way or the other, because it's not clear. I think Fujimoto is a master at like ambiguity and really leaving you to think about what you're watching or what you're reading. I mean, look at Goodbye Eri. That's like a perfect example of that, like of narrative honesty. Like did is what you watched honest, or is it made up? And I think this is like a lesser extent of that, and I think that's like what that is meant to entail. It's great. It's such a beautiful scene. The scene where she's teaching Denji how to swim was so good. Like that was a scene where I almost had like tears in my eyes. Just how like beautiful the music was, the composition of the scene, everything about it was so well done. Like the scene in the manga was good. I was like, man, this is gonna be crazy if it ever gets animated, and it was. It was so well animated that like it really made the payoff or the twist really like hit me again. Like I knew the twist was coming, and even watching it, it was just like, oh damn, like this is insane. The But this part of the movie, this was another part of the movie that made me just like get chills. I don't remember the name of the song, but you know the song I'm thinking of. The moment where like Chainsaw Man like shoves his chainsaw through the roof of the car and plays like that do 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 do. That song, which was one of the credits theme I think it was like the credit theme of of episode 4, I think. when that song played, I was just like, oh my god, holy shit, masterpiece, film. This is film. This is like art. Like that was like a hype moment. Like that was the most intense moment where I was like, okay, I'm on board with this fight scene. Like all these songs that they played were all from like the first season. It was was so well implemented. So like the beginning of it being a slow burn into this big action climax was so well done. I saw this one review from IGN of all places that criticized this movie for the pacing, where they criticized the ending being this kind of like unreadable action heavy sequence, and that couldn't have been so wrong and off the mark. It's insane. I can't believe this person like watched the movie and had that opinion. Like I can understand in some cases where okay, maybe you know the scene with Beam, and they're like trying to kill Typhoon or whatever. Like maybe I can kind of see that being hard to read, but I mean it's not that bad. And at that point, like this is like kind of the height of the climax. So I just thought it was a nice, well-rounded package, for a movie that's like an hour and 40 minutes. Uh, I really don't have any other criticism. Like I like because honestly, I kind of was a little unfairly like this is on the way to the movie, right? And I was thinking in the back of my mind because I was thinking back like you know with Dan to Dan for example, where and like the Demon Slayer, like some of the Demon Slayer arcs that they've done, they would air like they would do a screening of a couple episodes in a movie format, and I was kind of afraid they were gonna do that with this, and I'm glad it wasn't that. I'm glad it was an actual like movie that they wanted to make with this. Uh, on the other hand, I'm also kind of nervous when they do season two of Chainsaw Man. I kind of hope they don't do what they did with Demon Slayer because I think season two of Demon Slayer they just cut the movie, the Mugen Train movie, into episodes. I hope they don't do that because you've already shown the movie. We don't need to make the movie into episodes. Like just watch the movie, right? So I don't think they're gonna do that. I just hope that they don't. Uh, the music was good, as always. Uh, I just really liked it. I think it was a good movie from start to finish. I liked the intro, the little theme that they played at the beginning. I like that they showed like powers like when she like drinks too much blood from the zombies. It is kind of funny that they don't really put a like a recap in any way at all. Like they might have attempted with it a little bit with like a little bit of the like the newspaper headlines and stuff like that, but I don't think they really like they kind of drop you in. Uh even though I don't think many people would be lost in this movie. To be fair, they may be lost in some smaller instances, but I don't think they're gonna sit there and be like, what is a Denji? Like, I don't think they're gonna be that confused. But uh, you know, it's not that confusing of a story. So, if I were to rate Chainsaw Man the movie, I would give it like hmm, probably a 9 out of 10. I think it was a very solid movie. Uh, they had a lot of animation studios work on this too. Like I knew it was Mappa, but I was seeing like the credits, and it was like Studio Pero, Periot, whatever. Oh my god, what were the other animation studios? There was like quite a few that I recognized, but I can't remember the name. Well, whatever. Like they had like the animation studio that did Spy Family. They also did this as well. So it was like A1 also was there, and I was like, oh, A1, what the fuck? But then I realized, well, these probably just did like in betweens and other sequences because they always outsource uh their work sometimes. So you know it had a lot of like studios in the pot, but overall it came together. So it was a great movie. I highly recommend it. I saw it on a big Dolby screen, and that was great. I love the Dolby screen, but goddamn, uh, the showtimes for the IMAX were like 10 o'clock. You know, I don't know. I don't know if I want to go in the IMAX. I might. You know, It's funny. I saw the Demon Slayer movie, and I kind of kept getting the itch to see the movie again, but they're never putting that movie back into like an IMAX screen or whatever. So it's like, whatever. But with this, it's like maybe I'll get that itch, and maybe I should like do it anyway, right? But we'll see. We'll see, right? So let's talk about To Be Hero X. I did not know much about this anime at all. I just started seeing people who I follow on Twitter talk about it, and then I saw a video by Morris Critical that brought it up and said that this was a sleeper hit and people should stop sleeping on it and watch To Be Hero X. So I started watching it because of that, because I was like, okay, if this is a sleeper hit, I kind of want to see like what I'm missing. And I kind of agree. I do think 2B Hero X is definitely a hidden gem. I would compare it to Undead Unluck. I think Undead Unluck was another sleeper hit that people slept on, but whatever. I'm not gonna talk about Undead Unluck in this video. 2B Hero X is a very interesting show in the sense of how it's made, how it's animated, and the story. Uh, I will say I was a little like kind of like I was at first uninterested when I noticed that the animation style was similar to Arcane. Not that Arcane is an ugly show or anything like that, but I just felt like with Arcane it just kind of felt very mid and overrated. I don't know. I never really like liked it as much as people liked it, and that was like during season one, because I know a lot of people like fell off in season two, but both these seasons I did not care for. It's like so I was kind of like unsure about how 2B Hero X was gonna play out with that kind of animation style. But it pulled it off. I will say I ended up enjoying the style because it was more than just how it looked visually, and they did a lot of like interesting things with it. The show does later on switch to 2D animation all the way like until the end, and this was a very intentional thing, mind you, that I didn't really think about until like the end, in terms of chronology, because it does the 2D animation to kind of illustrate that this is before where the 3D animated episode is, basically. So you really see all these origin stories of all these heroes and all that. So it's like, okay, this is kind of interesting, or an interesting premise, to see how that plays out. But the whole like crutch of the show, or the hook, is all these characters' abilities, and all this is attributed to a trust value. The more trust people have in a person, the more powerful they are, and how their ability manifests. Like one guy, it was seen for being immovable. Like, oh, he can't move. He saved someone from like a burning building, and this person was like an immovable object. So like his ability is to stand like perfectly still, like and immovable, and all that kind of stuff. So like that's constantly kind of like the idea of all these abilities. Like one person seen as is perfect. He's nice. That so his abilities that have perfect counters. He carries himself perfectly, and all this guys like he's like the perfect superhero. So that's kind of like the general gist of that. Some abilities I will say they don't really go that much as like others, and I think that's fine in the grand scheme of things, because I think that this will definitely get other seasons if this continues. Uh, but the part that kind of got me into the show, that made me really want to keep watching, was the episodes that pertain to Lucky Cyan. It had a nice emotional pull to it, and I'll admit I'm a huge sucker to just good songs, because Lucky Cyan is an idol singer in 2B Hero X. Like her songs bring people good luck, good fortune, all that. The songs that have been stuck in my head ever since I watched the show was My Color and Takeoff. Wishing is okay. Wishing is pretty good too. I like listening to that, but Takeoff and My Color are two good songs. Like I love listening to these songs every time it comes up on Apple Music. So I like that. You could argue that some of the stuff that they did is kind of reaching. Like, oh, she has this yo-yo, and like the yo-yo can lead to whatever through good luck or whatever. It's very like, it's kind of reaching, but I let it slide because it's like whatever. And I like the character. I like her whole story where she was on a plane crash, and then she was very fortunate to survive because all these people were like kind of like giving her good luck and good fortune basically, and then that's how her ability manifested. So I really liked a lot of that aspect of it because it shows both the tragedy of these characters' abilities and just kind of how they're cursed in a way. So I really like that. It kind of does remind me to kind of bring back Undead Unluck in that kind of way, where these people in Undead Unluck get this ability, but there's a tragic reason for this ability as well. So I like the way that To Be Heroics kind of interweaved all these stories. It is overall an anthology series, so each episode is like a different hero, and it kind of was making me laugh a little bit because I think like I'm gonna get into a little bit of spoiler territory, but the end of season of episode 3 or 4, they show Moon getting killed, uh, and then they go on to the next hero after that, and I was like, "What was that about? Why was Moon killed? What happened?" And they don't really explain that until like I think they allude to it at some point, but it was just like she was off on another area, like not gonna do anything, and then she just gets killed, and it's like, what was that about? So I was like, are they gonna explain that? Is Esol the reason? So it was just this thing where I just kept thinking like I don't know what this means, and it got to the point where some episodes would just throw all these other questions that was going to be paid off at some point. So it got to the point where the last half of the episode of the show, you would see one episode play out, and then they would kind of show you the same episode again, but with the perspective of someone else, which kind of dragged, and it was kind of like disappointing. It's like we're wasting time on this. Like I didn't like it that much at that point when it got to do that. I got why, but it's like I kind of want to see where this expedition was gonna go to through the alien spaceship. Uh, and then they brought up Nice, and I didn't really realize at this point that this was a flashback. I kind of like. So this is the other issue with To Be Hero X that plays into the whole chronology. The text is terrible. I could not read the numbers, and to the point where I just gave up. It was like something number, like a double digit commission. And it's like I don't know what that means. I don't care. Like I stopped reading it because I would have to squint, and it just wasn't clear. So I hope if they do a second season, they just do something different with the font, because even the number font for the trust value that they show you, it's hard to read the numbers sometimes, and it's like hard to really care when it comes to that. So they need to change the text. They have to. Like the text is not it's not readable. It's not readable. Like, and this isn't talking about subtitles, because subtitles are very different. This is like the in show font that they're showing like time differences. Don't do this weird ass font that's like tiny. Like, come on. So I didn't. So I that contributed a little bit to my confusion of the timeline of all these episodes. So the episode where they're in like the spaceship and they show Nice, I thought this was the Nice that was like the fake Nice or whatever. And then like later on by the end it's like, this was before that, of course. Like it kind of like dawned on me at that point. And I just kind of it kind of plays two things in my opinion, where I can appreciate a movie that goes out of order, and I will say To Be Hero X does overall pull it off. So I'm not gonna initially knock it for doing that, like because I wouldn't say it did for no reason. I think it was very like uh clear why they wanted to be kind of uh out of order like that, to make you just kind of like curious as to where it's gonna go and how it would tie back to the beginning. So I do think it's worth that. Because someone was telling me like that it was an anthology series. I'm like, I guess, but then like if that's the case, then why end this story with a cliffhanger? But by the time I was asking that question, like around the Lucky Cyan episodes and a little bit after that, I started noticing, oh, there's like a tiny little thread tying all these stories together. So that's kind of when I really started to enjoy the show. Like it was like going from Lucky Cyan into Queen's backstory and all this other stuff where I realized, okay, it is going to tie back into that at some point because there is a small narrative forming with all this stuff that's going on. So okay, I'm curious to see where it's gonna end. I'm gonna save all this criticism about the anthology stuff until the end because then maybe that will make sense. And it does for the most part. Like it answers all my questions. Like it made sense why Nice didn't have the same like he had Nice's memories because it was the actual Nice during that. Uh, but it also explains why the animation style changed. Like where it's just uh X had the ability to kind of like change the style of the world around him. Uh, to a degree, because I also kind of think the episodes were done in 2D just to kind of make you realize, okay, this is a a flashback. Like this is like not modern. But then when they caught up, it's like okay, now we can do whatever with the animation style and fuck around. So I really like that. I like the mystery behind X, even though like you really start to see him like by the end of season one. And this is the other a fear I started to have when I was like, getting to like near the end, where it's like I don't know if this is a show that intended to be one season or it's gonna be ongoing. Because if this is gonna be a limited series where it's like one story for one season or whatever, this may feel very rushed. Like I don't know how they're gonna like tie it all together, and it kind of doesn't. But I think it is clear that they're probably gonna aim for season two. I hope because they hype up this tournament between the top 10 heroes, and I can't imagine them just ending on that. Uh, and like maybe they'll do a second season like focusing on that and the fallout of that or whatever. But I have to say this though. I have to say this about the animation. Lucky Cyan's 3D animation style looked awful. Like they butchered her. Queen looked all right, but she looked dead inside. Like she looked like a doll. But I can at least kind of like okay, whatever. But Lucky Cyan, like, oh my god, she looked so bad. Like, it felt that like with Nice, they kind of had to design him around 3D and 2D. Same with X, but these are the characters I kind of feel they design them around 2D first. Which, if you're gonna put them in 3D, you have to design them for both. Uh, I mean, I will say maybe like if I see her like in action or talking, it would be different because it was just a credit stinger at that point. Just be like, oh look, it's the characters you've seen in 2D now in 3D. But yeah, she just looked so bad. I was kind of really disappointed that that's what she ended up looking like. I think overall, if they do a second season, it may like do well. Maybe they do season if they do a season two, they're gonna have more time to animate these characters better, and it's gonna look a lot better. Maybe, but I was just so disappointed because I liked a lot of the art style of the 2D animation, and I kind of wish it stayed in that animation. At first, when I watched it in the 2D, I will say it. I don't know how to describe this because I don't want to make it sound like I'm like shitting on it, but uh it made me think of these anime shows that are made specifically for like a streaming service like Netflix, uh or like a Crunchyroll original or whatever. Like I don't know how to describe it. I can't think of another show to compare it to. Uh I can't think of it, but it's like it just doesn't feel like it just felt weird like that. But as I was watching it, like again, when I get to the Lucky Cyan episode, I started to like buy into the animation style. Uh, I can't remember the guy with the glasses who looked like evil Steve Jobs. I, the moment I saw him in that 2D animation, I was like, okay, this is actually kind of cool. Like I like the very like fake smile, evil look he has, and all that kind of stuff. Like I started to get into the animation style with that in mind. Same with like Lucky Cyan's like chibi animation that they would have with their face when she'd be overwhelmed or whatever. Like it's that kind of stuff I started to like a lot more, and I kind of was like, man, I don't want this to be in 3D anymore. Just do this 2D style and have the show be this forever. The only time I started to kind of not like it as much is uh Loli's backstory. Her and her girlfriend, the girlfriend in particular, Ghostblade's daughter. I did not like her design. They she's like 21, but the way they have her like dress and like she just looks like she's 18. So it's like I don't know, like there was something I that just didn't look finished with her character design. And it was just something I didn't really like. I liked the dynamic between her and Loli. I will say Loli is a very unfortunate character. Uh, the name is pronounced Loli, but it's spelled Lolly, so it's like terrible, and I hate it. I like some of the names are pretty bad. Like some of the names it's just it's just a bad naming scheme in some cases. But Loli being spelled as Lolly is so it's cursed. It's sad. I've seen like Reddit threads where it's a debate, but yeah, it's just a very unfortunate name. Other than that, I think the characters are interesting to the most part. I didn't care about Little Johnny and Big Johnny. Not that they were bad, but I just didn't have an opinion. But overall, it's a solid show. I don't know if I'd say it's. I mean, like most critical said, it was his anime of the year. I don't know if I would go that far with it. It's something worth watching because it's a fun watch. I wouldn't say it's boring or anything, but there was just something that was kind of uh it didn't go far enough in some cases. The music elevated a lot of the scenes. Again, I love Takeoff. Takeoff is a great song. A lot of the scenes that had that song playing, I was into it. But I don't know. Like there was just something that I felt that was kind of missing. That should have been there, and it's like it does feel very I don't say it's not necessarily amateur-esque because it's not like that, but it does feel like very give this show another season and it'll probably improve a lot. Like I do think that if this continues, it will just go up. So I like it. I do recommend it. It's worth watching. Overall, if I were to rate it, I would probably give it an 8 out of 10. It is a solid show, start to finish. So yeah, check it out. To Be Hero X and Chainsaw Man, the Reze Arc movie. These two things were really good watches. And they're fun. They're a lot of fun. So check it out. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Uh, bye.